Morning, everyone. My name is Kate Okole. I'm a relationship expert. I'm going to talk this morning briefly about the effects of sexual abuse on its victims. There's a lot going on social media now where we see men who are in their 60s, men who are in their 50s, professors who have men who are at the top echelon of their professional career. Some of them are academic professors, some of them are pastors. We've seen the case of Timi Dakolo and all kinds of sexual abuse. And I'm going to briefly talk about the effects of this sexual abuse on its victim, just so some of the perpetrators they know that this is not because I've seen a lot of some comments, some very careless comments, even made by mature adults who are parents also, their fathers and their mothers. They just throw these comments on social media as if it's something of a joke. Sexual abuse, it's a serious matter, and the effect on the victims cannot be overemphasized. So it's not a thing of, it's not something that we should make, obviously we should take lightly or we should brush under the carpet. For the perpetrators of sexual abuse, I'm going to talk about some of the effects of sexual abuse on children, even on adults. The issue of the professor in Unilag is not actually, even though obviously BBC has actually kind of sort of exposed it. This is obviously not the sexual abuse going on. It's been there for such a long time. It goes on in churches. It goes on in institutions of higher learning. It goes on even in homes. It goes on also even when people invite guests into their homes. There are some people, they invite guests into their homes. They invite uncles, they invite family members, they invite pastors, bishops into their homes to stay over, and at night they crawl into the rooms of the children of their host, and they sexually abuse these children. So the effect of this sexual abuse cannot be overemphasized. I repeat again, the effect of sexual abuse on its victim cannot be overemphasized. So when sometimes the victims, they become suicidal. A lot of them, they commit suicide, and sometimes they begin to self-harm, because they sometimes begin to hate themselves, to think that, okay, they were involved. They start kind of hating themselves, blaming themselves. Maybe they would have done better. Maybe they wouldn't have been where they were at the time when they were abused. Maybe, they just continue to blame themselves. And sometimes because of the pain, the emotional and psychological trauma, they start to obviously to now self-harm, to harm themselves. They begin to cut themselves, begin to use sometimes a sharp object to cut themselves and all of that. So these are some of the effects of sexual abuse on women. Even boys themselves these days are being abused by sometimes mentors, by people who their parents leave them in, obviously by their guardians. Even sometimes, even some of the Catholic priests, they abuse this, but we've seen cases of hundreds and thousands of boys who are being abused by these Catholic priests. So my message this morning is for the perpetrators of the abuse, and for some people who actually don't have the awareness to understand the effects of abuse on its victim. The effect of sexual abuse on its victim can actually, it has a ripple effect even on the society, because when people begin to now self-harm, they now become, obviously they have mental health problems. It affects the society also. Even sometimes the young girls who are now abused in their homes, when they now get married, they become frigid. Rather than enjoying sex, they now see sex as a kind of punishment, because each time, a lot of them don't even disclose these things to their husbands. They just keep it to themselves. So they now see sex as a thing of pain and as a thing of punishment, and it now begins to affect their marriages. So we must not undermine when these topical issues are being discussed. We must not just kind of brush them under the carpet, or maybe obviously turn them into a thing of ridicule or laughter or fun or comedy. Sexual abuse is a serious it's a serious topical issue, and it is quite disturbing. You see, obviously because of the ripple effect it has on not only children but also adults, and sometimes when the children actually now grow up to become adults, the ripple effect, you find out that even some of them that have been abused as children, they now grow up to become adults who now become perpetrators of abuse themselves, and then it just goes on, and then obviously we're not able to break this cycle of abuse, so we must report every case of abuse. So if you are a mother, you've got a grown-up children, and then maybe you have remarried. If you sense any form of abuse, maybe your new husband is abusing your children, do not brush it under the carpet because you want to keep your marriage. There are some mothers, because they want to keep the marriage, they just cover up for the man, and they know that the man is sleeping with them and sleeping with their daughters. So what you are doing actually, it is incest, because the Bible itself is strongly against it. A man cannot sleep with you and sleep with your daughter also. So it is incest. Apart from the fact that it's incest, what you are doing, you are promoting a kind of the effect on your children or on your daughters, so to say. It cannot be overemphasized. So you must report these incidences of abuse if you sense it. You must call it to the attention of the man. You must report it instantly, because it's going to affect that child. Is going to the child might even grow up now becoming turning into a prostitute. A lot of these prostitutes, if you interview them, you find out that they are victims of abuse. So because they are victims of abuse, they now the self-worth, they now lose every kind of self-worth and self-confidence, and they feel that the more they give themselves up to a man, the more they are going to find love, and they start finding love in all the wrong places. And then you see them, they become very promiscuous. They begin to seduce men. They begin to see their body as a thing of, obviously, as an object, as a tool to seduce men, searching for love in all the wrong places. So these are some of the effects on young girls when they now grow up to become adults. They cannot obviously be stable in a relationship. They just obviously keep, even if they meet a man who actually obviously wants to be with them, they just don't get satisfied. They just keep wanting more, obviously sleeping around. That's why even sometimes you see some married some married women who obviously they become promiscuous, and you are thinking, obviously, what is it that she's looking for? It could be, if you look at the history and the foundation of that woman, she might have been sexually abused, obviously, as a young girl, and then obviously, that obviously causing her to become to feel worthless, to have no self-confidence, to start looking for love in all the wrong places. So those are the side effects of sexual abuse. And then sometimes it affects it affects young children emotionally and psychologically, and they cannot sometimes disclose this to their parents, and then they become suicidal. They just want to end it, because each time they just keep replaying it in their mind, so they now become suicidal. You see, so I was listening to some of the testimonies of some girls that the professor in UNILAG actually has harassed within the campus, and one of them actually said that she that she had thought several times about taking her life several times. She has thought, obviously, let her just end it. So these are some of the effects. So it's like because of 5 minutes pleasure, you end up ruining the life of young people. You understand? And we must report if for any reason we sense that there's sexual abuse going on anywhere around us. We must report it. Because when we are silent and then we allow evil to prevail, we allow evil to be perpetrated, and we are silent about it, then we obviously, directly or indirectly, we're contributing to that evil for it to continue to take place in our society. So I just feel I'm actually going off to court, so Romford County Court now. I thought it would be nice to talk about some of the effects of this, some of the effects of abuse on the victims, and that we should and must not undermine these issues of sexual abuse and sexual harassment, especially in Africa, where people say, oh, obviously it's some of the lecturers, they even say, no, it's the girls, it's the way they are the ones seducing the men, the way they dress provocatively. That is not an excuse for you to now obviously take undue advantage, especially when you are in a position of authority. Young girls, they are looking up to you as either as a pastor, as a deacon, as a minister, or even as a lecturer, even sometimes as a guardian. You know, parents, they put their children under your care for you to either mentor them or to direct and counsel them, and then you now want to take undue advantage of them because of your position, whilst they are looking up to you to actually direct them as to how to be successful in life. So it is wrong. It is completely and totally wrong. And I keep saying it. Any man who is able to discipline himself when it comes to sexual matters, any man whatsoever who is able to discipline himself when it comes to sexual matters has solved 70% of his life's problems. A man who is able to say, no, I cannot do this. This person is my stepdaughter. No, I cannot do this to this person. This person is my daughter. No, I can't do this. This person is my wife's sister or my wife's friend. No, I have to discipline myself. No matter, even sometimes I know there are women who throw themselves at men. A man who is able to stand his ground to say, no, this thing is inappropriate. That man has been able to conquer and to discipline himself to the extent that he has solved 70% of his life's problems, because there are consequences to all of this. That professor now, I was reading yesterday that obviously he's planning to commit, obviously he tried to commit suicide, and they rushed him to the hospital. Now he's now on suspension from the university. The church also, where he was pastoring, he was a pastor, Foursquare Church, also he's been suspended from that church. So less than 30 minutes of what he actually thought was going to be pleasurable to him has cost him over 40 years of hard work, over 40 years of hard work, 40 years of commitment, 40 years of building himself. And I'm sure by now his family, his wife and children also, everybody, there will be so much crisis in his life right now. Because of what? Because of 30 minutes of nonsense, absolute nonsense. You know, so as when we begin to think about the consequences of our actions, perhaps if we think that the law cannot catch up with us, if we think that people might not obviously find out the things we do behind closed doors, sometimes we think that, oh, it's not possible, that these things are not going to be reported. Oh, we live in a lawless society, I can get away with this. But one thing we must remember, even if we don't remember that we're going to get caught, we must remember the consequences of our actions. Let's say, for example, even let's say that 17-year-old girl actually accepted. She might be HIV positive. She might have a kind of other sexually transmitted diseases. You know, you might want to say, oh, well, fine. They use the rubber, they use the condom and everything. But a lot of times, even the condom, it fails people. People have been now contacted all kinds of sexually transmitted diseases because of this level of promiscuity, and then they end up losing their lives, you know, because of this level of promiscuity. The problems that this particular professor has caused in the whole of his family, I don't know how he's going to face his children. I don't know how he's going to actually come out in the society again. Even after, we know that with time, obviously all of this is going to die down. but I don't know how he's going to bring out his face and actually speak anywhere in the community that people will want to listen to him. So all because of less than 30 minutes of what they call pleasure. A lot of times people think that it's an escapade, that they can, you see people, they sit down and they just talk about it. Oh, how many women have you slept with? Oh, I've done this one, I've done this one. It's like you're sowing negative seeds, not only into the life of the victims, but you're sowing negative seed into into your own life. And obviously there's a confession that he was talking about, cold room in Unilag. This is a community of men who are supposed to be lecturers, who now designate a particular area on campus and then target a cold room where they go to slaughter students who they are supposed to mentor, who they're supposed to lecture in order for these students to be successful in life. Little wonder you see graduates, people who call themselves graduates, they sometimes they come out obviously with first high grades and all of that, and then you're wondering they cannot actually defend their qualification because of things like this, because they look up to, they're using their body to get whatever. It's not only university. What about places of work, career women and men who are trying to rise up? The other day, somebody was discussing with me, he used to work in one of the new generation banks in Nigeria, and he said to me the pressure that they put on women in order to meet all kinds of targets that obviously cannot begin to actually explain it to me, including married women who go out there to search for extremely wealthy people who can bring in money to the bank just so they can get promotion and obviously get more money, get more commission. So these are things that we talk about corruption of the leaders, corruption that Nigeria don't have good leaders, but there are other aspects of lives in Nigeria, in different ministries, in different spheres of life, where the level of corruption is so deep that people cannot get promotion, or you cannot get a kind of favor from a man or a woman without paying in kind or in cash. It is really, really unbelievable. But the thing is, the side effects of these things that we do on the victims, again, I'm talking about the side effects. A lot of times we saw they have to pay in kind because they cannot pay in cash. But the side effects on those women, the side effects on even the married women, some of them, they've lost their life because they've contracted. I was reading about a story of a woman who left the husband and obviously started following this senator, a Nigerian senator, and then he didn't disclose to her his HIV status, and she contracted HIV through this man. And then she died about 2 years ago. Beautiful, beautiful woman. Her husband gave her everything. He married her from a very young age, and unfortunately, she was misled, obviously, by bad friends. And then she got caught up with this politics and everything, left the husband, started following this senator who was obviously giving her everything, giving her money, buying cars and houses. But she ended up contracting this disease and she died. But so at the end of the day, her children are the ones who are going to suffer without a mother. You see, so those are some of the consequences, some of the side effects of this level of promiscuity. The thing is, when people have multiple sex partners, there are dangers to all of this. For each time, as men or as women, we get ourselves linked up with people who are not our spouses, there's a spiritual connection, and we begin to lose our virtues. I'm not going to go into the religious aspect of it. I'm talking about, even the everyday effect of these multiple sexual partners that we actually have seen this day, that it has become a norm, even in churches. You see people sleeping with themselves. They don't see it as anything. It is sad that even this professor actually sat this young girl down and led her to Christ in his office, shared the word of the scripture with her, and then reiterated to her that he is a man of God. It is unbelievable the things that people use this word, man of God, to the kind of atrocities that people commit using that word, man of God. I've been waiting to see a lot of times when these so-called men of God, when they now involve themselves in this kind of atrocities, they have followers who now end up saying, no, touch not my anointed and do my prophet no harm. At the point when people begin to commit atrocities, when they begin to sleep and to take undue advantage of people, they are no more anointed, because God is a righteous God. God is a holy God. So when we now begin to take undue advantage of people, either taking money from them by manipulating them, sleeping with them, because obviously they hold us in high esteem, and they will take undue advantage of them, we are no more anointed. Because an anointed person is a person who is set apart, holy and righteous, and is ready to serve God and to serve humanity. Go back to the scriptures and see all the people that were anointed. They were set apart, because God is a holy God. So we must be careful when we begin to use that term, anointed, touch not my anointed and do my prophet no harm. Those are some of the gimmicks that they use to deceive and to mislead unsuspecting followers, all in the name of religion. May we be freed from this spirit of religion that has caught up with most of us in Africa and all over the world. May we be freed. May the Lord begin to open the eyes of our understanding. May our daily lives be kingdom. May we be kingdom-minded in all that we do. Not living our lives to please man, but living our lives to think of how are we going to please God. In our words, in our thoughts, in our deeds. That should be it. It's not about pleasing any man of God or pleasing the world, making the world see us as holy, but what we do behind, it's despicable. I'm going to round up right now, and I'm speaking again to the perpetrators of abuse, to remind them of the effect of their action on the victims. There is a whole lot of effect on the victims of sexual abuse. As I said, some of them, they commit suicide. Some of them, the thoughts of suicide keeps ringing at their door every other day. Some of them, they begin to self-harm. Some of them, they begin to have low self-esteem and low confidence, and then they become promiscuous. They now start sleeping with so many men, thinking that the more they sleep with a man, the more they give their body to a man, the more they are going to be loved. Some of them, they become very unstable in relationships. They jump from one relationship to the other because they are never satisfied, because they don't have that self-worth. So these are some of, and then it continues. Some of them end up becoming abusers themselves. They begin to abuse people themselves, because that is the only way, that's the only thing that they now understand, because it has now become a part of them. They begin to abuse others themselves. So these things are things that affects lives, that actually goes to the foundation of people's lives. We must not brush them under the carpet. We must not think that, oh, it's business as usual. So if you, by any means, you are a perpetrator of this sexual abuse, I'm speaking to you right now, and I'm saying to you, you need to begin to think about the consequences. The purpose for which you are created on earth is not to affect people's lives negatively. If you are that stepdad, if you are that dad, you are that boyfriend, you are that mentor, you are that pastor, you are that doctor, you are that lawyer. I've had cases of lawyers who take undue advantage of their female clients. They take undue advantage of their female clients, and the female clients come to them. They now obviously harass them sexually and still take professional fees from them. So it's like using your position to take undue advantage of people. Sometimes the people, they have immigration problems, they don't have a voice, they are voiceless, they are so scared, and then you take undue advantage of them. And I'm saying to you, for all of this action, that God is watching you, and the law is unto you. Very soon, if you don't stop and if you don't repent, the law is unto you. You are going to be caught. So whether you are a lawyer, whether you are a doctor, whether you are a teacher, whether you are a father, women also have had cases of women who abuse children. So whoever you are, whatever position you are, either on the domestic front or professionally, you are a boss somewhere in the office, and then you are taking undue advantage of people. You are offering them promotion, offering them whatever in exchange for sex. The law is unto you. And I want to say to you that you are destroying lives. You just need to repent and to change right now. Because the person may give up their body to you because they don't have a voice, they don't know what to do. But the after effect, the ripple effect on that person, it will remain in the memory of that person, and the effects you are destroying lives. That is exactly what you are doing, and that is what I've come to remind you of this day. So if you are a pastor and you're saying you're a man of God and you are quoting the scriptures, you are reading the scriptures, and yet you're taking the scriptures to take undue advantage of your followers, you are sleeping with them, including the married and the single ones, the law is unto you, and the judgment of God will be upon you. And since if you don't fear God, you will fear the law. So it's either you fear God or you fear the law. Since you don't want to fear God because you don't believe that there is God, even though you're carrying the Bible, there are lots of people that don't believe there is God. A lot of them, they talk about heaven. They don't believe there is heaven. Because if truly you believe that there is God and there is heaven, you will walk in line with the teachings of the Bible. So they take a part of the Bible that suits them, and they use it to take undue advantage of vulnerable people who are looking up to them. So the law is unto you. The professor who actually is obviously talking about the scripture, trying to lead that girl to Christ, reminding that girl that he's a man of God. He didn't fear God, but now he's going to fear the law, because the law is going to catch up with him. The law is going to catch up with him. And now the whole world is naming and shaming him, because now God has taught him that he is God and that he cannot be messed about. But one thing about God, he gives us a long time for us to be able to think about our actions in order to repent. So the law is unto you. So it's either you refuse to fear God. If you refuse to fear God, the law is unto you if you're a perpetrator of sexual abuse. So thank you very much for watching. If you've been blessed by these short clips, obviously I would advise that you share it, and share. If you have been a victim of sexual abuse and you are thinking about committing suicide, perhaps you've been self-harming, perhaps you've been feeling dirty, you've been feeling guilty, you need to seek help now. You need to either speak to a very close friend, or you speak to your GP. You need to seek help. There is no need for you to commit suicide. It is not your fault that you were found at the point where you were now being taken undue advantage of. You need to speak to somebody, because a problem shared is a problem halved. Speak to somebody about it. Call it to their attention. If you're a young girl, you're a teenager, and you're going through abuse, and you're watching this video, speak to your parents about it. Or if you have a close family member, maybe an auntie or somebody you can confide in, don't be scared. Bring this issue to the attention of a close family member or a close friend, so that they can call that perpetrator of this evil violence, call him to order. And if you're a young girl, a lot of times your parents, sometimes they have guests, and the guests, each time they come in and they've been abusing you, crawling into your bedroom at night, and you are so scared of disclosing this secret to your parents, because a lot of times the man will say to the young girls, this is our little secret. You need to speak up now. Call up your mom and say to her there is something you want to discuss with her. You need to report this sexual abuse now. You need to report it, because it's going to have an after effect on you later in life. Don't be scared. Even if your parents, they don't believe you because they revere or they respect that guest, you need to go to your school and speak to a teacher. Report it to a teacher, so that they can obviously call it to their attention. By the time you report it to your teacher, your teachers and the school authority, they will bring it to the attention of your parents. Then your parents will actually now begin to believe you, so that they can stop allowing that guest to come, to stay over at night. So, and if you're a parent, you allow your children to go, to go on weekends, to go on holidays when you are not with them. Be careful that home that you are sending your children to, including your male children, because a lot of times women will say, oh, thank God, I only have male children. Male children are also abused. Male children are also abused. So be careful. That uncle, that auntie, that home that you are sending that child to, that sleepovers that your daughters go to do sleepovers, be careful. You need to find out. One thing you must understand, for abusers, it is not written on their forehead. That professor, who would have thought that professor a professor in the university and a pastor who obviously pastors a whole church, who would have thought that a man of that that's reputable standing would do such despicable thing to a girl who is old enough to be his daughter, a 17-year-old girl. The man is 56. So you see, so it's not written on anybody's face. The most important thing, begin to educate your children. Parents, do not fail to educate your children. Empower them with information. Expose their eyes to the things of the world, to the possibilities, the things that happens in the world. Once you've been able to educate and to empower your children, you can actually allow them to feel free to go everywhere, because you know that you've instilled in them the tools that they need in order to be able to manage life's challenges. So never stop educating your children. It could be, thank God for phone and text messages. You could actually send a word. You can send a video. Don't make it look too cumbersome, because if you keep kind of repeating it, they might start saying, oh, mommy, oh, what is this? Mommy, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. So don't make it look monotonous. So once in a while, just drop that information, drop it. You might think that they are not listening. They are listening, they are taking it in. And you are empowering them. You are giving them all the necessary information and the tools that they need in order to survive this. Obviously, I mean, it's a crazy world that we live in now. There is sex everywhere, sex on the phones, sex on YouTube, sex everywhere, billboards everywhere. The enemy is using this sex to destroy the world and to destroy the lives of young people. So we must empower our children so that they can face this world. That child of yours that is living home for the first time, going to university, have you spoken to them about HIV? Have you spoken to them about sexually transmitted diseases, how they can protect themselves, how they can abstain in order not to get into trouble? Have you spoken to them? Have you empowered them about how to deal with boys in the university? How are they going to, obviously, boys are going to obviously breathe down on them, saying to them, oh, I love you. Have you spoken? How many times have you actually mentioned to that daughter of yours that you love her? So if the girl is going to hear I love you for the very first time from a stranger, she will get excited and she will get carried away. But if she has been hearing I love you from mom and dad every day of her life, any stranger that comes and says to her I love you, she's going to brush it off and just move on, and then understand that at that age, at that stage of her life, that is not what she's in the university to do. So parents, please empower your children with information. Don't bore them with this information. Empower them with information. Gradually drop this information. Once in a while, you drop it on them. Once in a while, you can actually hold a meeting, just talk to them. So you see what happened to this, that. So what is the lesson that we're going to learn? And then you allow them to contribute. So we are learning this, we're learning that. That way, you are gradually empowering them. I was hearing a story of a young boy who went into the bathroom and he was raped by a man inside that bathroom. How do you protect your young vulnerable children from this crazy world? An innocent boy who went into a bathroom to obviously to ease himself. Another adult came there, grabbed this boy, shut his mouth and raped him. How do you empower your children even when they access public bathrooms? How do you protect them? How do you tell them what to do? We need to begin to, a lot of times we are kind of shy as African parents, most especially, about discussing sex with our children. If we don't discuss sex with our children and the intricacies, outsiders, strangers, they're going to teach them in the wrong way. They're going to teach them. So once we have empowered them and we are feeling free, we're discussing these things, always be transparent with your children. Let them know that at every point in time, anything whatsoever, they should feel free to discuss with you. Once in a while, check their phones also. Let them understand that it is a no-go area. They should not discuss or chat with strangers on the phone. Very, very important, because there are some pedophiles, they disguise themselves, they change their picture, and they lie to these teenagers that they are 17, 18 also. So you need to begin to teach them also how not to speak to strangers, how not to speak or to chat with anybody they have not seen outside their school premises who are obviously their friends. There are loads of things that we need to teach our children. I just pray that God will give us the wisdom and the understanding to be able to survive this crazy world that we are living in. They call it end time. But God, I don't know about you, but I worry so much about our young children. How are they going to cope? How are they going to survive? Because the world is not so safe the way it used to be. But we must, in trying to empower and to give our children information, also improve on ourselves by getting information. Praying is not enough. A lot of times, we'll just continue to pray. The watchman watcheth in vain a house that the Lord has not built. Fine, we know that the protection and the safety that we need comes from God. But at the same time, when we go to sleep, we don't leave our doors open at night because we think that God is going to protect us. We shut the windows, we shut the doors. Even some of us, we have double locks and we have a burglary proof for protection, even though we know that God is going to protect us. So the same way, in everything that has to do with aspects of our life, we need to put in things that will protect ourselves. We must not allow ourselves to let go. We must put protection, most especially for our children who are innocent children. So I hope you've been blessed by this video. I need to run along now to get on with my day, and I pray that the Lord will open the eyes of our understanding, that these little nuggets will get empowered by them, and obviously will transfer this knowledge also to our children. Ignorance is transferable. Ignorance, because the ignorance that we exhibit and today in our life, will transfer it to our children so that they'll make the same mistake that we have also made. But knowledge is power. So the knowledge that we have today is transferable also. And as much as we try to read books and we try to empower ourselves with knowledge, we must transfer this knowledge also to our children. It is part of our parental responsibilities and also our God-given role as caretakers of these children, to make sure that they are not being taken undue advantage of, to make sure that we have obviously built that foundation for them on which they can grow to become better people, so that they themselves can also transfer these positive tools also onto their children. Imagine a world where these positive tools are being transferred from one generation to the other generation, and then of course the world will become less horrible, will become a happier place, and we are all happier for it at the end of the day. So do have a nice day. God bless you. I need to go now. Bye.